Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Jonas's rambling video. I don't, I don't plan these things. I just hit the record button. Um, let's go with this one. Okay, so this one's written on a door hanger. It's great. We have update, slight update. We have a calendar now. And there's a blanket here. Oh, your ears just got striked. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, wow. Great start. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, so this is something that have to explain to a lot of people because for some reason this doesn't wrap around their brain. Basically, the whole concept of like Occam's razor and what like what so people I I'm trying to come up with the situation in which this comes up at. Okay, so usually people will be like, what if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if this happens, like all the time, or something like that. And I'll be like, well, what is the likelihood of that happening to like a lesser outcome? Because people always tend to think like the worst thing possible is going to happen, right? And I'll be like, well, the possibility of the worst possible thing happening is very slim compared to uh, just something that was kind of meh happening. And sometimes it's even impossible for those things to happen, or so unlikely that it's practically impossible. And that's where beyond a reasonable doubt comes in. Because people will be coming up with these like super crazy random like claims and stuff, and I'll say like, okay, what are the chances? Uh, like, is that even reasonable to assume that this can possibly happen? Like, is this even in the realm of possibility? Because I'm saying the same thing over and over again now. I gotta like contain myself. So I start out with saying, bring it back to like how do we judge whether or not somebody's guilty? And they'll be like, okay, well, based on evidence. And I'll be like, okay, what is the claim? And I'll be like, okay, beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's what you have to prove it, beyond a reasonable doubt. And then how that relates to science would be like, and this is like a whole nother YouTube video that I watched, so this is just me regurgitating information, but noises. The Raven theory. So basically, if you have a hypothesis in like a scientific hypothesis, whatever, that all ravens are black, well, you can observe ravens, and the more ravens you observe that are black, strengthens the thought, or the strengthens the hypothesis that it's true that all ravens are black, when there could be a white raven or multiple white ravens that you've never seen before. They're off in some place that's unobservable, or you don't have access to at the time. And so it's technically false, right? That there are all ravens are black, but you don't know it, so you just believe that it's true. So we know that they're albino animals, and so that we know that that's probably true, that there are white ravens out there, but say you didn't know that. Well, you'd think it would sound completely absurd. And so that's the issue, is you not knowing what is really in the realm of possibility and what is not. And so, but something like completely ridiculous, which would be like a meteor striking us in like 2 seconds. 1, 2. Congratulations, we survived. That's just completely absurd, and so it's kind of hard to explain that, I guess. So if something isn't proven to be impossible or possible, let's start. If something isn't proven to be possible, it doesn't make it impossible. Or if something isn't proven impossible, it doesn't make it like possible, I guess. Like, you understand the concept, okay? So if I say, well, life was created last Thursday, right? Well, you can't prove that that was possible or that it did happen. You can't prove that it didn't happen, because, but Occam's razor says that, well, the chances of everything coming together and being created last Thursday was far less likely than some of the other possibilities that are out there. And then again, that would be beyond a reasonable doubt. You'd say, like, well, there are other more than likely the easiest solution, or the most simple solution, is the true one. That's like a whole nother theory that's just kind of weird and random, but typically it is. To be honest, like, you look at something and there's usually no like hidden meanings behind anything in nature. You don't get nature trying to write a novel, I guess. And then this was brought up to me because there was a story of drugs being stuck on a pizza and given to somebody, like, in another town, like right across from my town. This was like a year ago. Somebody put drugs on a pizza and gave it to somebody, and they were like all freaked out and like concerned, and then it started this like uproar, and everybody was concerned about having drugs in their pizza. But it's like, what are the chances of you actually having a drug in your pizza? Like, how many pizzas have been given out that didn't have drugs versus how many pizzas did have drugs? You know what I mean? There's so that, like, the whole world doesn't really have to be concerned about it. It's probably enough to be like, it would probably be pretty evident that there are drugs on your pizza or in your pizza. If it tastes funny or something like that, and then you just be like, I don't want to eat that. Or you start tripping in the middle of your slice, like, bruh, my favorite flavor is green. Like, something stupid. So, it says, expect the unexpected. So, I feel like people say expect the unexpected, like, prepare for the worst sort of deal, which, yes, I agree with. This doesn't like nullify that, like, oh, I'm immune to all these terrible things, because, like, you think about how many different ways there are to die, right? You could be like, okay, I could get drugged in my pizza, or I could get hit by a car while waiting at the bus stop, or I could die, like, I don't know, in a freak accident, like skydiving accident or a skiing accident, or there's all these different ways that you can possibly die. And then you think about you and how many chances that builds up, right? So you used to say like, this crazy thing that could happen, this crazy thing could happen, this crazy thing could happen, this crazy thing could happen, and all of it's a small chance, but added up, it's like a decent amount. How many people? What is on average? I don't know what it is. How many people die? It's not from old age. Whether that be an illness, or just like, I don't know, car crash, something like that, like anything, like really just anything that just ends your life early other than old age. Because that would be, a lot of those are probably like not super uncommon, but it's something that you wouldn't believe. Oh, I'm not gonna get hit by a car at a bus stop. How many people actually die with that? That kind of thing. Like, you don't believe that it's gonna happen because there's such a little possibility, but there's so many different little possibilities that eventually something's gonna happen to you. Fear of the unknown. We went over that, and this just kind of like, I just kind of want to tie this into the fear of the unknown type of deal, because I find it kind of interesting, and I don't really have to say anything. You can kind of understand how that would play into that. If you knew how you would die, what would you do? Like, this is a strong question. Like, if you knew when you were going to die, what would you do? Right? A bunch of motivational speeches say, oh, you don't know when you're going to die, so you want to get as much done in your life as possible. And that doesn't really impact you unless you let it sink in. And you say, like, well, there are all these small things, and I really, honestly, to God, don't know when I will die, and I should probably do the most that I can in the time that I have, even though I don't know how much time I have. There's crazy little things, like, I never knew that I was going to get IBS, right, until I got it, and now I have it, and it's annoying. And then you're just like, if you weren't, if I didn't know that, if it was like a year ago and you asked me, oh, you're gonna have or tell me or ask me, do you think you're gonna have IBS, or you're gonna have IBS, and I would say that's bullshit, or there's no way I'm gonna have that, because it's just one of those things, like, you don't ever expect to happen to you, but there's just so many different things that can happen to you. Eventually one of them is gonna happen, right? There's one of the things I was like a Vsauce video or something. It was like the most unnormal day was the day that everything was normal. It was like nothing interesting happened on one day. It was like nothing credible or like anything of value happened that day, and that was like really interesting because pretty much every other day something has happened, right? And that's kind of interesting, just saying, like, the standard that we'd hold to be normal is actually different, very different from everything else that we've ever encountered, because we always encounter something different. You can always learn something throughout your days, and going through all the different, like, there would be classes, work, just home life, you learn something, teach something every day. It's even if you don't really know that you're doing it, you always learn something, and you pretty much always teach something, whether it be to yourself or someone else. So that's all I gotta say. This was really off. I kept losing my train of thought and where I was going with things. I didn't plan for this. I should just like think about it a little bit more before I start talking, but I think I did pretty good at the end. I don't know. It's an issue. I guess. Like, I don't plan for these videos, but then, even so, I end up still kind of getting my point across. Like, if I re-recorded this whole video, I would probably get the points down in like half the time, and it would be far more interesting for people. But I don't know. I don't know if I should do that, because this was like, I don't know, it feels like less genuine, because it portrays me as smarter than I actually am, if that makes sense. Like, that's how I feel. Because I feel like, even though it's like a better structured video and I hit more topics and stuff, it makes me feel more knowledgeable about the topic, because I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I think, blah blah blah, this. And then everybody's like, wow, that's interesting, instead of being like, oh, this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about, which is true. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm a fucking kid. Like, 19 years old. Like, what do you expect from me? So, I guess that's why I do it. It's because I don't want people thinking I'm more credible than I actually am. But I'm gonna go and probably record a video or edit something. I don't know. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.